Should you bypass college and just get out there at the clubs and start doing stand-up? Hi, Jerry Corley, StandUpComedyClinic.com with another episode of Ask the Joke Doctor. In this episode, we're going to discuss a tweet I received on Twitter. Well, where else are you going to get it, right? It's from a student who says, basically, his name is Urgent Humor. Urgent Humor. It's like you got to tell a joke when you got to pee. He says, Urgent Humor says, how do I convince my parents that school isn't the only way to be successful in life and that I want to be a comic? Well, first of all, Urgent, let me explain something. Here's one thing. Go to school. You know, part of being a comedian is having authority, and having authority means you're knowledgeable, and being knowledgeable usually means you go to school and you have an education. However, that being said, because I don't want to be the guy that tells you to bypass college, I dropped out of college. I was, what I said to myself, I said, you know what, I'm going to go back to school, make sure I get my degree so I have something to fall back on just in case my career goes in the toilet. So I went to school to finish up 2 years and get like an English degree. Well, that first semester up at school, I was going to the library every day because I really wanted to, you know, I'm going to do well, I'm going to get straight A's. But on my way to that study table, I stopped at the magazine rack and the newspaper rack, and I wound up picking up newspapers and magazines and spent the entire day writing jokes. After about 3 weeks of this, I said, what the hell am I doing in school? I moved back down to LA, and I applied that same amount of time every single day to writing jokes. And within 18 months, I had a job writing for The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. So, even though I'm telling you should go to school, which I think is the best move, you should always have an education, it's also possible to get in there, just continue to be persistent, work your ass off writing every day, just bust your ass writing, getting up at the clubs, doing whatever you can, immerse yourself in comedy, become a comedy nerd. I have one of my students, he's in his 20s, about 23, 24 right now. He is immersing himself in it, watches comedy every day, all day, watches stand-up every day, all day, and you can see it impact his ability to be funny in the moment. He's actually a fantastic comic, and he's working now all around town, and he's only been doing this for about a year, year and a half. So, technically, you can do it another way. You don't have to go to college to become a comedian. Now, if we go back and we look at some of the, so like George Carlin, he dropped out of college, he dropped out of high school in the 9th grade, continued to read voraciously, and continued to write every single day. He used to write every single day. He used to have this little, in one of his apartments, he had the seat of a taxi cab in front of his toilet with a tray table that came down that so he could just sit there and write jokes and do wordplay and study words. That's how Carlin wrote. So as a comedian, even though college is very beneficial, it's good to have an education, you don't actually need it. If you get out there and do the job, you can do a lot. You know, like I said, I dropped out of college. George Carlin dropped out of high school in the 9th grade. Remember, this is a tough business. So on one hand, the safe part of me says, hey, I wanted to make sure I had a degree so that I had something to fall back on. But what if I had that degree to fall back on? Would I not have put in all that work because this is the only thing I wanted to do, the only thing I felt I was qualified to do? Now, here is the facts. Here's the truth with the brain, with any skill. Any skill can be mastered given the practice and the expert feedback, so you can make adjustments and learn. Larry Bird said, and I think John Wooden said, he used to be a famous coach for UCLA basketball, said, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So if you're working your stuff and you're working the same bad jokes over and over and over again, and you're not getting the expert feedback you need to adjust the joke, or somebody who can actually help you fix a joke. Because odds are, if you think something's funny, if you have an idea and you think it's funny, odds are it's funny. You just need to know how to say it right so the audience sees what you're trying to say. One of the most common things people mess up is not giving enough information before they feed it to the audience, feed the punchline to the audience. I just worked with a guy on Skype who was doing a wedding, toasting the groom. And he had a couple of jokes, but he wasn't sharing the backstory that make those jokes relevant. He was just selling the punchline. So when he's saying the punchline, I go, wait a second, does this guy have a history of doing this, of getting drunk at this? Oh yeah, we don't know that. He said, well, most of the people will. I said, but you want to get all of the people. Besides, it doesn't hurt to reiterate. If you remember David Letterman's top 10 list, right, on The Late Show, the most famous segment on late night television history, top 10 list, he wouldn't just read the top 10. He would always reiterate what the premise was. Top 10 reasons you know your mother-in-law hates you, and then he'd read a couple and go, top 10 reasons you know your mother-in-law hates you, and you keep reminding the audience what we're talking about so that the association is immediately connected to the word. So if you don't know that, you're going to continue writing poorly and never improving. Now, because we've seen this. We've seen comics, right? We've gone to the clubs. We've seen comics at open mics get up there, and that same comics getting up there week after week after week, trying the same joke the same way and expecting a different result. If you're doing that, then you're not learning. So expert feedback is essential. Now, that being said, what kind of time do you have to put in to get good? That's the question. This is, again, supporting the idea that you don't need college. I didn't go to college. I don't have a college degree. My degree is in life. My degree is in getting the job done. My degree is in writing every single day and mastering the techniques for comedy, the skills, the structures, the 13 major comedy structures that most people don't know. Most people do not know these. The 9 psychological laughter triggers, the science behind why people laugh. Once you understand that, you're way ahead. Right? You're way ahead of guys who are already working, who, when you ask, what's a great joke? What makes the audience laugh? And they're like, a punchline or great timing. What does that even mean? How can you apply that? How can you understand what it means so that you can apply it on a daily basis? It's once you understand the craft in its most intrinsic form, and you study it and you get good at it, then you can make a living doing comedy, or make a living both performing stand-up, doing corporates, doing cruises, doing colleges, doing clubs, doing parties, writing for people, writing for shows, writing scripts, writing sitcoms. All of this stuff is one big skill set that if you begin to start to master all of the skills by practice, you can create multiple revenue streams and increase your odds of working in this business. This is a very competitive business, and you have to work your ass off. So back to what kind of work does it take to really master a craft or master a skill? Well, according to Anders Ericsson. Anders Ericsson was the first guy who really went down and studied or explored mastery. What he did, he was at a music institute in Germany, in Berlin. And he studied 30 top violinists at the most prestigious music conservatory in the world. And he asked the question, what separates the best from the second best and from the not as good? What separates it? And it turns out the people who are on the lower end of the skill level were practicing an hour and a half a day. The people that were at the high skill level, the highest skill level, were practicing 4 hours a day. Now, this is very important, about 4 hours a day, but in 90-minute increments. The body and the mind are set up to be the most efficient for about 90 minutes. It's the same thing that reflects our sleep cycles. So when we sleep in REM sleep, And we have a whole cycle we go through every 90 minutes while we're sleeping. The same thing happens in our waking hours, where we have really good energy, real commitment, real focus for about 90 minutes. And then we deplete that energy. So it's then time to take a break from that focus, like go for a walk, grab a bite to eat, go for a hike, I go to the gym, and then come back and refocus. But if you put in 90-minute periods for 4 hours a day of working. Now, back in the day, I did more than that. I was doing 4 to 5 hours a day, almost straight through. I would take breaks and get up and grab some coffee. But I would sort of sit down every single day, every morning from 7 to 11 or 7 to noon, and write jokes on the news. And in about 18 months, plus I hired 2 mentors who were writing Dean Martin for the Dean Martin roasts and stimuli present in the material or in the physical action of what we're observing. That's what's triggering our laughter. So if you understand this, now the question becomes, how do you make sure you can trigger that laughter? How do you apply those triggers? What are those triggers, and how do I use them consistently in my comedy? This is what I do. This is how I teach, is using that structure. Now, back to Anders Ericsson, the science of expertise. So if you think about it, 4 hours a day, every day, in 90-minute increments, writing or performing comedy is the type of time you need to put in to start to master your game. Now, also, the most important thing is expert feedback. So that means, well, like I did, I hired mentors. And they helped me to really generate great jokes, and they criticized my material when it wasn't good. They gave me notes on how to improve my material. All of that helped me in the long run. Plus, 27 years on the road in front of audiences, about 43 weeks out of every year. Talk about experts. Those guys will let you know instantly if the joke works or if it doesn't work. So you got a great playground. But also, I needed to be able to go back and find out why the joke didn't work and how to fix it. Once I began to understand why people laugh and how to trigger that laugh, I knew how to fix a joke and go back out, try that joke again, and have the joke get a laugh. So this Ericsson is actually the founder of that whole 10,000 hours thing. What's his name wrote on Outliers. It was like, hey, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at something. So 4 hours a day, 90-minute blocks, apply yourself, apply yourself, apply yourself. Do not get lazy. Set your goals. And yes, you can actually be successful. Any skill, remember, can be mastered with the right amount of time applied and expert feedback. So, that being said, whether or not you'll be able to convince your parents is a whole different thing. Your parents are your parents. They're going to do what they want, and they control the purse strings. So if you don't go to school, you're probably not going to get any money. And if they decide to kick you out because you're not doing anything except being a comic, I had great parents. They were artists as well. I was able to stay at their place for a while before I got working. So they were very generous, and they were very giving, and they supported my comedy career because they knew from the point of view. My dad was an actor. He was a character actor, and he made a living as a character actor. Put 5 kids through college in LA as a character actor. So he knew how difficult it was. So he really supported me. So did my mother. So whether your parents support you or not, I'm not sure. I hope this helps you. Any skill can be mastered with the dedication of hours and expert feedback. And I hope this helped you solve your problem, Urgent Humor. And by the way, if you want to follow Urgent Humor, his handle was @UrgentHumor on Twitter. So go ahead and give him a shout out. And thanks again for sharing the question. And I hope this helped increase some value in your day. Remember, if you have a question, go ahead and hit me up on Twitter. My handle is @JokeDoctor. And hit it with the hashtag AskTheJokeDoctor, and I'll be happy to answer any question you might have that will help you move forward in comedy. I love this stuff. I'm passionate about it. It's all I do 24/7 as I write, perform, and teach comedy. So I really hope you're enjoying the videos on my channel here. If you are, please subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Just hit that subscribe button, and you can always comment on any of the videos that you see, and I'm always happy to have you here. Take care. Bye-bye.